You're listening to Bad Girlfriend Radio. I'm your host, Bree Schmidt. I'm a relationship coach and educator offering advice and insight that is no shame, no sugarcoat, and no BS. Today, I'm talking about being selfish or selfless in your relationships. Are you a giver, a taker, or a matcher? And what does this mean for your relationships and life in general? And how can you spot a potential partner who might take advantage of you and everything that you have to offer? I'll answer these questions and more, so stick around for the full discussion. Do you enjoy listening to Bad Girlfriend Radio, but what you really want is a chance to talk one-on-one about dating and relationships? If you are ready to start thriving in dating and your love life, I am here to coach you in personalized coaching sessions that are all about you, and all you need is an internet connection. I offer coaching through private video calls as well as through email, and you can book your first consultation call with me for free if you just head over to breeschmidt.com and tap Work With Me, or you can find the link over in this episode's show description. We'll get deep into the thought patterns and limiting beliefs that are holding you back, and you'll learn how to shift your mindset to gain confidence and empower yourself to live as your highest, best bad girlfriend self in your love life. I'll give you action steps, worksheets, and resources to keep you engaged in growth throughout the whole process. And all of this is tailor-made for you and your needs and your goals. And hey, it doesn't matter if you're single or in a relationship or married. This is about you showing up the way that you want to, no matter your relationship status. Whether you are looking to start dating with confidence, heal through your breakup, or stop fighting with your partner, I am here to work with you. So go to breeschmidt.com and tap Work With Me, or go find the link in this episode's show description. Now, on to today's discussion. Are you selfish or are you selfless? Are you a giver or a taker? Or maybe you're a matcher. Today, I want to talk about this concept of giving, taking, and matching, and I want to give credit where credit is due. This concept was the basis of the book Give and Take by Adam Grant, and he's done a lot of research on this topic and has a lot of great insights. So I wanted to talk about some of these ideas today and also give some of my own ideas. Because actually, Adam Grant's work is mostly focused on giving and taking within professional organizations and workplaces. But today, we're taking some of that information and applying it to romantic and personal relationships. But if after this episode you're still interested in learning more about his ideas and his findings, then be sure to go read that book, Give and Take by Adam Grant. So what does it mean to be a giver, taker, or matcher? So if you're a giver in your relationships, then it is natural for you to try to be of value to others. Now, side note, as a relationship coach and educator who wants you to build healthy relationships, not toxic ones, I want to just stop here really quickly and just remind you that you just being you is of value, okay? You are already valuable, period. But givers will try to think about how they can help others or provide something useful and meaningful for others. So they go into interactions thinking, like, what can I give this person? How can I be useful? How can I be valuable to them? And from Adam Grant's research, it seems that about 1 in every 4 people are givers. And then there are takers, which is a little less common. About 20% of people are takers. And takers approach each relationship and each interaction wondering what they can receive from the other person. They're interested in fulfilling their own personal goals and needs, and they kind of see other people as being there to help them get those needs met. My last episode before this one was all about needs and how it's actually really normal and even necessary to depend on other people to get some of our needs met, like needs for connection and belonging. But if you're a taker, then you might forget that other people have these needs too, and you're just kind of focused on getting your own needs met, whether or not that helps or hurts the other person. You don't really see relationships as being worthwhile just for the sake of connecting with someone else, right? It's more about serving yourself and your own self-interest. That's how a taker thinks. They can be very charming, but this is typically just to ensure that they get what they want from the other person. And a taker might act kind of entitled when it comes to people who they deem as beneath them. like maybe service workers. So if you go on a date with someone who is rude to the server at the restaurant, then take this as a red flag that they are probably a taker. Now let's talk about matchers. So most people are matchers. This is the most common type. And as you can probably guess, they try to match what is being given. And they will also try to match what is being taken too. They think, I'll do something for you if you do something for me. I'll give to you if you can give to me too. Now, if you take from me, then maybe next time you owe me something. You should pay me back. Matchers like things to be fair and equal and just. So these three styles basically determine how selfish or selfless you might be in relationships with others. And your style not only determines how you act, but also how you judge others' actions and motives. So here's what I mean. If you're a giver, you're more likely to assume that others are cooperative and generous and giving like you are. You can put your trust in others easily and build relationships quickly. Then if you're a taker, you see the world as being like every man or woman for themselves. It's not only about you trying to just protect yourself and your own interests, but you are also probably assuming that others are thinking the same way. If you're a matcher, then you probably think that others' actions are a result of matching as well. So if someone does you a favor, you're likely to assume that it's because you did something kind for them before and they're just paying you back. You may think of relationships as being transactional like this, even when perhaps others are just being giving because they care about you and they want to help you, not to even the score. But because you're a matcher, you might assume that others are matchers too. So these types, giver, taker, and matcher, can play a huge role in how we interact with others. And in romantic relationships, a lot of your behaviors and expectations probably fit one of these types. So think which type that you might be. Are you a giver? Are you always trying to, offer to other people without thinking much about what you might get in return? Or are you a taker, where you can honestly say that you care most about you being benefited from a relationship, and maybe you see other people as being a way to gain something to get you ahead? Or are you a matcher, where you assume that people in relationships should get equal gain and loss, and where you might hold back in giving or taking until someone else has made the first move in giving or taking from you? All right, so think about which type you think that you fit the most. Then take a guess which type you think is the most likely to actually get ahead, which type is most likely to be successful. So the type that is the most successful are the givers, and I'll explain why in a minute, but now just take a guess at which type you think is the least successful. Are you ready? So the least successful type, or the type that is most likely to lose the most in relationships, are also givers, okay? So this means that givers have the most to gain and also the most to lose. So if you want a happy, healthy, successful, fulfilling relationship, then be a giver. But the ones who are also most likely to be stuck in an unhealthy relationship where they're, giving and giving and giving and not getting anything back are also givers. By initiating the giving, you are actually in a position of power. Have you ever heard that saying, or like that piece of advice, that kind of relationship advice that says to love someone or marry someone who loves you more? Like, it's safer to be in a relationship where the other person loves you more and they give you more, and you can just kind of rest assured knowing that they won't hurt you or cheat on you or something because they care more than you do. But meanwhile, you're giving them less. And as that piece of advice goes, you somehow have more power in giving less. That's the idea. You should love someone who loves you more, and then you'll always kind of be in control. Have you ever heard that advice? I mean, that is total BS, but I've heard it so often. By purposely committing to a relationship that you're not even really interested in, or with someone who, maybe you don't really have to be vulnerable with them because there aren't that many emotions involved because you actually just don't really care that much, you're limiting the growth of that relationship. Does that make sense? You might feel like you don't have that much to lose in that kind of relationship, but you also don't have that much to gain. Believe it or not, you have the most to gain when you also have the most to give. You have the most to gain when you're able to be giving to someone else. Even if that means being vulnerable and opening up your emotions and, putting yourself in that position of them possibly taking advantage of you. You actually really have the most to gain. So being a giver actually gives you the power to get what you want. But like I said, it does also make you more vulnerable. But I promise that vulnerability pays off. And consider too that if most people are matchers, then being a taker will likely hurt you, because then as you just keep taking from others, they will also start matching that and taking from you. Matchers really care about fairness and justice. So if they feel wronged by you or taken advantage of by you as a taker, then they will likely do the same back to you. Or at the very least, they will stop giving you anything. So being a taker really doesn't get you ahead at all. But if you're a giver, remembering that most other people are matchers, then matchers will likely just match what you've given them. So you'll likely get back what you offered from the matchers. So that's how it can be beneficial to be a giver. You're likely to get back in return what you gave. Now you might be thinking, no thanks, I don't want to take that chance and give too much to the wrong people. Giving is too vulnerable, I might get taken advantage of, and I don't want to be the one initiating the giving, so I just want others to take the lead, and I don't want to be a taker, but I don't want to be a giver, so I'll just be a matcher. You might be thinking, yeah, being a matcher, that's like a good kind of happy medium. But imagine a world where everyone was a matcher. Imagine if everyone was focused on waiting for a potential partner to approach them, to make the first move, to, strike up a conversation, to ask the other person out. If everyone did this, if everyone waited for the other person to make that first move, then everyone would be waiting for the other person to make the first move, and then literally no one would make the first move. Or if everyone waited for their partner to give love before they give it back, then relationships would be really cold and dry and boring. No one would get anywhere. When we focus on keeping score, only giving when we're sure that we're going to get something back, relationships get stifled. Life gets stifled. With relationships, friendships, or anything else for that matter, how many times have you waited for someone else to give you XYZ and you're not even offering XYZ yourself? I realized kind of recently in my own life that I was even waiting for my friends to initiate hanging out with me, because I think deep down what I really wanted to know was that they accept me and they like me and they want to hang out with me. So rather than just finding that out directly by asking them to hang out, I was waiting. I was waiting back for them to kind of make the first move and ask me to go hang out. So I just decided, okay, I'm just going to start giving more of what I want. So if what I want is to hang out with my friends and I kind of want them to initiate, but what if I actually initiate? What if I actually take the action that I wish that they were taking? What if I take matters into my own hands? What if I take my power back? And I'm going to be honest, actually, as I've been growing my audience on social media too, on Instagram and online, I was, for a while back when everything was really kind of slowly building, I wasn't really sure why people weren't liking or following me. And if I'm being completely honest, I was being pretty stingy myself with who I would follow or who I would even give a like to. This is a whole other topic, but to be honest, actually, social media, I've always been a little bit passive with, even on my own personal Facebook account and stuff. For years, I've just kind of scrolled and read the posts, but I don't actually like or comment on people's posts very often. I'm more of a, let's go to DMs kind of person. Let's, just talk privately, or let's text each other, something like that. So I realized, though, that I wasn't really giving the kind of engagement and interaction that I wanted to receive. I was being a little bit stingy. So I kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, if I, interact with other people online more, if I start engaging with them more, I wonder what will happen. And sure enough, the moment that I did that, I started getting more followers. I started getting more people sharing my content and liking it. I give this example because it's insane in how many areas of my life I realized that once I was more available to others, I was actually more available to receive. Once I was more available in giving, I was actually able to receive more. It kind of just opens the door. And of course, in my relationship with my husband as well, this is also very true. I don't keep score. I don't keep track of, I gave this, now you need to give me this. I give because I love my husband. I give because it's meaningful to me for him to be happy. I don't keep score. I don't see loving actions as some kind of exchange for his loving actions in return. Our relationship isn't transactional. So it's not about a score, but sometimes it is about a feeling. So if I start to feel burned out, I start to feel exhausted, or maybe he's extra busy at work and I feel like I need more time together and more care, I have some feeling that tells me that something is off, then I'll ask for help. And this point of asking for help leads me to an important distinction. I mentioned before that basically the winners are the givers and the losers are also givers. And the thing is, there are differences in these two groups. There are differences between givers who end up feeling the most fulfilled and then the ones who end up the most depleted. And knowing those differences means that you can choose to be a giver who is successful and fulfilled, not one who is burned out from giving too much. So I have 5 differences or 5 tips to being a giver without giving too much. So number 1 is to give from security, not insecurity. Giving to others out of insecurity because you just want to please them and make them love you. For one thing, you could actually argue that that is actually maybe kind of like a hidden form of being a matcher, actually. But aside from that, giving to others because you're feeling empty yourself, you're giving to fill yourself back up, to try to make them love you or make them accept you, is a subtle form of manipulation, actually. I kind of talked about this a little bit in episode 30, and I said that being passive and kind of just people-pleasing is actually kind of a form of manipulation because you're trying very hard to control what the other person thinks of you by holding back certain parts of yourself and then maybe giving too much of yourself in other ways. So when you are giving out of insecurity because you feel empty, not because you actually feel full and whole already and you feel like you have so much to give, but because you actually feel empty, you most likely won't actually achieve what you're trying to achieve by giving so much. Does that make sense? So that's number 1. Give from security, not insecurity. Number 2 is to be a giver not only to others, but to yourself. You will get burned out if you don't save some of you for you. Give without sacrificing yourself. Give yourself what you need, whether that be time to be alone and recharge, or to rest, or to do a hobby that maybe doesn't even help anyone else, but it just makes you feel relaxed. Whatever you need, make sure to give to yourself too. There is nothing noble about giving to others while completely ignoring what you need and just saying yes to everything and everyone until you burn out. And then at that point, you have nothing to give anymore anyway, okay? Self-care isn't selfish. It's a requirement to be able to give to others anyway, to take care of yourself first. If you really do value being generous and caring towards others, that's great, but you can't even do that if you neglect yourself. And very similar to number 2, number 3 is to set boundaries. You can be giving without giving everything. If someone wants X thing and you can't really offer that, but you can offer Y, then offer Y and see if they accept that or not. It's okay if you can't offer everything to everyone. It's okay to give someone 5 minutes of your time instead of, 5 hours. Set boundaries and offer what you can realistically give and what you want to give without sacrificing yourself and your well-being. Number 4 is to allow yourself to be a receiver, not just a giver, and ask for help. You may enjoy helping others and being of service to others, and you may feel some guilt for receiving from them. After all, you don't want to be a taker, right? You want to be a giver. But you can give and receive. Accept help from others too, and explicitly ask for help when you need it. Be honest with yourself when you're at your limit and you can't do it alone. It is okay. You're human. All right? And lastly, number 5, simple, don't date a taker. Don't have relationships with takers. Remember how I said to give from security and not insecurity? Being a giver, particularly an insecure giver, can attract takers. And in relationships, that could mean a narcissistic partner or an abusive or manipulative partner. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be a giver. It means that you need to not settle for a taker. It doesn't mean that it's your fault if you have been in this kind of relationship dynamic before. But if this sounds familiar, then just take note of the behaviors and the toxic traits that that person had. And recognize now that that isn't love and you deserve better. You don't need to change who you are. You know, if you're kind and giving, you don't need to become cold and distant because someone hurt you. If someone hurt you by taking from you, the solution is not to become more like them. You don't heal by becoming more like the person who hurt you. You don't heal by becoming more like the person who hurt you. Remember that. So giving isn't wrong. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you deserving of being hurt or taken advantage of. But find someone who will appreciate your generosity and who also wants to give back to you. Find someone who respects that you also maybe need time to take care of yourself sometimes and that you need time to give to yourself too. Choose a partner who listens to you, who can speak your love language, and who cares about your feelings. That kind of person isn't a taker. Actually, the most successful relationships are where both people are givers. Now, if you do date a matcher, that's okay, because at least they'll match what you're giving to the relationship. But one way or another, steer clear of energy vampires who have no issue with taking and never giving anything in return. Don't date a taker. So as you can tell, in this episode, I'm suggesting that we all take more of a giving approach, but of course with some limitations. Give to others, but also give to yourself. And don't give to people who are just going to take from you. Don't give them your time or energy because, quite frankly, they don't deserve it. But what is giving? What can you give? Giving isn't just about favors and acts of kindness, though it certainly can be. I think in Adam Grant's research, he mostly looked at people in the workplace. So the giving was often things like, taking on more work or doing some of the tasks that maybe others didn't want to do, or like in a multi-person project, some kind of group project, then the giver would maybe do a lot of the work. But in relationships, you can, of course, give acts of kindness, acts of service. You can do more of the housework or, pick up the dry cleaning, those kinds of favors. But you can also give other kinds of things too. Like you can just give appreciation, tell your partner what you like about them and why you're thankful for them. Give them affection, whether that, that be hand holding or hugging or a massage. Be a good listener. Listen to them talk about their day or whatever's stressing them out, and then offer them your compassion. Or give them a compliment. Tell them that they look good in that shirt that they're wearing today. Give them some kind of nice experience, like a nice date day together or a nice dinner. And of course, you can also give gifts and things that might cost money too, if you want to. And also give your time. Give them your time and attention. Take time to just be present together. Take time to try something new together, or maybe try their favorite hobby. So as you can see, there are a lot of ways to give. And give in a way that is within your abilities and within your boundaries. And also try to give in a way that will be received by the other person. I'm sure that you know about love languages by now, and I've already actually quickly referenced them in this episode. So give what feels like love to the other person. Speak their love language. Before I finish this episode, I want to leave you with one final thought or a bit of advice. Put more of what you want into the world. Give more of what you want to receive, and you will very often get it back. Give nothing, and you're likely to receive nothing back. Often we look outside of ourselves to other people or other things to give us what we want because we don't believe that we already have it. But usually we actually have the exact thing that we think someone else needs to give us, or we ignore the access that we already have to it. So we passively wait for someone to just drop it into our hands. You are just as able to give love as someone else is able to give you love. You're just as able to give friendship as someone else is able to give you friendship. Maybe you're waiting for them to make the first move, but maybe they're waiting for you to make the first move too. And if I'm being completely honest, sometimes people are busy or they already feel, more or less fulfilled and satisfied in their life. So maybe they won't make the first move because they aren't really thinking about it as much as you are. So in other words, you might be at a point in your life where you're really craving connection, like you're really looking for a relationship or something like that. And I'm definitely not advocating for a one-sided relationship, but you might meet someone who would be perfectly happy to connect with you and start a relationship or whatever it may be. But to be honest, they aren't as focused on that as much as you are right now. They might be at a point where they would be happy to have a relationship with you. They're able to, but also maybe right now they're super focused on work or whatever it might be. So they're just not thinking right now, oh, I got to make the first move. I got to get out there and meet people. Yet you're sitting here waiting for them to make the first move. They may never make that first move simply because it's just not such a great focus for them at the moment. But for you, it is. So take matters into your own hands. Give a little to them first and just see what happens. See if they give back. But if you consistently wait for others to give first, that is a lot of opportunities that you could have actually gotten exactly what you wanted. You could have formed that relationship, and it just doesn't ever come to fruition. Remember, you have more to offer than you think you do. And once you start realizing how much power you already have in the world, and you're able to give a little more, you're in a better position to start receiving a little more back. And this isn't even really about manifesting or a law of attraction necessarily, in case that's something that you do follow, but just logically too, if you consider that most people are matchers or givers, you really don't have that much to lose at all by just giving a bit more. You only have more to gain. So give more of what you want to receive, and you will get it back. Put more of what you want out there into the world, into your friendships, your relationships, and you will probably get it back, all right? That's all for today. But if you have any thoughts or questions, you can let me know. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm at Bree_Schmidt. Or you can send me a good old-fashioned email at contact@breeschmidt.com. Thanks for listening as always. Until next time.